Okay, this is part two. Remember, they're changing my voice. I'm going to need at least 3 parts for this series. I'm just going to continue with Genesis 3. Okay, I'll just go through the whole chapter in this video. Hopefully, we'll get to Revelation 12. If not, we'll just get to it in the next part. Genesis 3, the fall. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say we must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden and must not touch it or you will die." Now there's all kinds of connections here, okay? But the most important thing to get from this is that the snake is trying to be crafty, right? You see the craft, right? The tricks of the trade to trick somebody, right? Craft. Masonry, the craft, witchcraft, right? Switchcraft. The craft is in the pirate's vessel, the boat, the boa in the boat. There's all kinds of wordplay, Masonic wordplay, occult wordplay to be considered here. The devil, the trickster, the tricks of the trade, right? Fraternities and who fraternizes with who socializes with who, social clubs, social engineering, social media. It's all connected. So the woman just said, "And you must not touch it or you will die." So you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. You must not touch it or you will die, is what God said to the woman. 4, you will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. There's a lot of ways to look at this. The simplest answer, and it's part of why it's so confusing, is the Bible is by Baal. It's by the devil. So when the devil said that the devil, in the form of a snake, the ancient serpent, the devil, in the Garden of Eden, gave Adam and Eve fruit and their eyes were opened, he's saying they now saw the devil's way in the world. Their eyes weren't open in terms of being like God's. Their eyes were open in terms of being like fallen angels, right? He said, "And you shall be like gods." Psalm 82 says that the sons of God, right, are rulers of this earth. They're angels who, they're fallen angels. They're fallen angels, all but one. Okay? It said God renders judgment in the great assembly. And these fallen angels were referred to as sons of God also in Genesis. Okay? And in Job, we see that being used again, this title, sons of God, in the translation, angels or sons of God. So angels / rulers / sons of God, the ones who aren't doing God's work, are demons, impure spirits. They don't have the pure doctrine of God. They have Luciferian garbage and trash like that. So again, when their eyes were opened, they were opened in that they saw things like the snake. They took the fruit from the snake and they saw things like the snake. Okay? And they saw that they were not wearing the clothes, the spiritual clothes of the snake, and they desired to be like the snake. That's what has happened here. Okay? And this is a metaphor for what's happened with the human race. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves, right? They sewed fig leaves. Okay? Now figs are compared to various things. I made a video about this, a little bit fuzzy on it, but if I'm not mistaken, right, the stars falling from the sky in Revelation are compared to figs falling from a fig tree. And the stars are compared to angels. So the fig leaves are like the clothes of angels. Which ones? Fallen angels. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. So one way to look at the Garden of Eden is it's in the heavens. Okay, it gets confusing here. It's in the heavens, or it's where the heavens and earth overlap. Okay? And God is skywalking, so to speak, in the garden, right? Horus the skywalker. Okay? He's heaven walking. He's God walking. He's skywalking. The Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." So the woman had listened to the devil, who's in the form of a phallic symbol, a penis symbol, a snake with poison. And a snake's mouth, certain snakes' mouths are similar to vaginas. It sounds like absurd if you've never seen it, but when you see it, you'll see exactly what I mean. It's very similar to that. That's not a coincidence. That's a symbol. That's a pattern of nature that God, who actually does exist, put there for you to connect the dots, because man was a very natural life form, right? They're studying nature to understand what to do and how to live and what to eat and what not to eat. And in the process, they captured snakes and studied them. You see this in Egypt, for example, big time. Early zoos, if you will. The Lord God called to man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." And the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." And what is going on here is very similar to this. Where instead of women obeying God through me, which is how you obey God, right? The one way to obey God is obey God through his representative. Proverbs 16:10 through 16:12 makes it clear it's me, right? The divine verdict is on my lips, and the throne is established through righteousness and justice. And it's not right to cheat the top martial artist ever possible. I have his right to lead. So obviously I'm the King of Kings. No one else has a logical claim of being the authority on matters of God, on matters of what God is commanding you to do. Okay, and you can imagine there's all kinds of sissies that aren't man enough to accept that as true, and they're throwing fits, and they're persecuting me, and playing a stupid game, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the females are listening to these other guys, gay guys with all their power, whites, Jews, token minorities, these guys with power in this world, neo-colonialists, corporatists, government scum, what have you. And they're saying that they're afraid to go against them. To some degree, the serpent is a scary animal, and that's subtly there, right? So there, you can look at it in terms of coercion, right? You can look at it in terms of she doesn't know what the serpent is. You can look at it as she doesn't know what it is, but they're scared to some degree, and they're like, okay, I'll do what it says. So it's using its craftiness one way or another. Coercive power, bribery, confusion, use, confuse, misuse, and abuse, what have you. Okay. So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you people who are snakes, so to speak, you're in the spirit of the snake. Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock. In all wild animals you will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life." So again, the Middle East is in between Egypt, which depicted the gods as, quote unquote, as having animal-like features, right? So animal heads in human bodies. Okay? And except for Apep, it was just one big, animal, right? One big snake, and so on and so forth, and anything else like that, Sobek, and so on and so forth. But on the other side, you have, at some point, martial art animal styles emerge, okay, in Asia. And here we are in the Middle East, where Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language. Okay, so we know that for many reasons, and people are compared to animals in the Bible, the Lion of Judah, for example, the devil compared to a roaring lion, we know that that is what the Bible is getting at because of that. Okay, because of the timeline, because of, who had contact with who traded with who's explained to who, what the purpose of the Bible is, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life." So his martial arts style is the most inferior. The dragon, the snake. According to the Bible, it is the most inferior because it lacks character. Because you have done this thing that is so unbelievably wicked that you are low down and no good. And those who truly emulate snakes and dragons, Komodo dragons, what have you, mythological dragons, okay, are the lowest of the martial artists in terms of character. Because is their cause high, or are they trying to snake? To snake means to cheat people rearrange the rules, make it a Olympic, indoor, and so on and so forth, changing the terrain, removing it from nature, unnatural, artificial, right? Making it an art as an illusion instead of an art as in the cultivation of reality and character. Okay, and truth and justice and righteousness and purging and being pure and purging evil from the world. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, or strike your head, and you will strike his heel. A lot of times I used to think, when I used to read this, I used to think they were talking about, something else as instead of the heel, a different part of the foot. But they're talking about the heel. And there's heel kicks in some martial arts, right? How do cops kick in doors, for example? They use their heel historically, right? They boom, they kick it, bow, 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 heel kick. Okay, obviously cops are in the spirit of Satan, right? The law of the land instead of the law of God. But you get what I'm saying. Okay, there's connections there, and there's a lot of them. And I'm trying to do this on the fly, trying to get these videos out as soon as I can to increase the chances I get more views. And so that's part of why I've got to rush through this. Okay. And didn't have time to kind of start writing down what the connections are and so on and so forth. But one thing's for sure, that, doing blows, right? Row your boat, right? The solar boat, the spiritual vessel to heaven, right? Doing blows, right? The wind blows, right? It's striking, right? Jesus on a cloud, the wind is moving it. The striking is moving the cloud. It's moving the solar boat. It's advancing, right? Tries king and striking, right? It's a play on words for tries king. Tris without the E, and then king. When you rearrange the letters, it's called an anagram. You rearrange the letters of the word striking. Okay, talking about, talking, alpha bout. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right. So again, the heel kick, the process of kicking, right? They talk about kicking a bad habit, right? To coordinate the brain, neuroplasticity, brain wiring. The word wired is weird, scrambled, because they want everyone to be weird and dumbed down so they can take advantage of them and make it easier to sell them things that they shouldn't buy, and to get them into bed, and to control them, and so on and so forth, right? Social engineering, social controllers. Okay, so the very idea of being in the divine order, obeying God through me, and striking with the spirit that comes from God, that the top martial artist, the valid one, I'm the last valid one possible, brings into the world, is the idea of striking down the serpents by striking his head. Okay? And of course, this has occurred. During the course of my life, I struck many blows in the pure, focused, moral, intense spirit of God, while they did little bitch shit to try to throw me off, which doesn't matter. And I struck down the world who was found in Babylon's spirit, and they were cut off. Okay? And the birds, figuratively speaking, are feeding on their flesh. It's kind of like in a battle, right? They go down the grave covered in worms and maggots, right? They whether they have a coffin or not. So these people are like the type of cowards who be like, well, what if we have a coffin? What if we're not killed on the battlefield and the birds aren't picking at our flesh? Okay? And there's all kinds of other connections there where the bird's message is trampling them and triumphing over them, as they fly to the heavens and traverse the realm, and so on and so forth, figuratively speaking, metaphorically speaking. Okay, so what I used to do is I used to visualize the evil in the world and where it got onto the outside of me, okay, and where it was trying to struggle with me inside, and I'd visualize it going out of my body, and as a way to purge my mind, body, soul, and spirit of it, because they're trying to throw off my brain function, and trying to lead me astray and do what you people are doing, which is cheating me out of my right to lead, which is not moving masterfully in the spirit of morality. And then I'd strike them down. I strike down that energy, that idea that's projected, because even if you believe the energy isn't being struck down in your brain's being reordered to move toward the goals that God put there for you, right? Wisdom walks in the way of righteousness along the path of justice. The path of the righteous like the morning sun shining ever brighter to the full light of day. Okay. To the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe with painful labor. You will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. Your desire will be for your husband, right? A true husband, not the people these females, right? Only valid marriage on the planet is my parents, because everyone else is outside the divine order. So they're supposed to get in the divine order And if they're to get married, they're supposed to obey their husband, and their husband's supposed to obey me.